don't we do a little recap of the Housewives shows that we're following this season?
Okay, and what are we following this season? Because we've got a few things that are being broadcasted. What are you watching? What am I watching?
We are watching Salt Lake City, the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and the Real Housewives of Orange County.
Why aren't we watching the Real Housewives of Miami? I mean, I am watching it.
I thought we weren't going to watch it.
But why? I just wanted to talk about maybe why we weren't going to cover Real Housewives of Miami. We just don't enjoy it that much? Is that why? You can say it.
I mean, here's the thing. I don't really enjoy it. Certainly not as much as the others. I feel it is a little bit of a train wreck, but not in a good way. I think they're trying so hard, and it's not a fun, enjoyable hour for me.
Okay. And that's important. It's got to be high vibe, or else why are we doing this, right?
Yeah. I mean, we can talk about it if you want to talk about it.
No, I don't want to talk. Well, we have an item from the Real Housewives of Miami that we'll talk about later. But no, we don't need to actually cover it. I'm fine not to do it. I'm with you.
Okay. So I figure we'll recap Salt Lake City, and then we'll recap Orange County. So this week's episode of Salt Lake City was, what's the word I'm looking for?
Crazy.
It was crazy. It was
Mary's
all
crazy.
I can think of are ostrich feathers. Was those ostrich feathers?
What?
I don't know what they were.
Meredith.
Meredith. Yeah, I was. So okay. So in the episode, there was. First of all, right now it's so much about Jen Shah and her, impending trial for being arrested in the FBI investigation and all of that. But I feel like the undertone is Mary and all these horrible things that she's saying to people. I mean, what's your take on Mary?
Here's the thing with Mary. I grew up in Pentecostal churches, and so I think the churches that I grew up in are a lot like the church that she is pastoring, and I find the rumors about what she's doing with her congregation to be odious. For example, people mortgaging their homes in order to fund her lifestyle, and also potentially the rumor allegedly is that she purports herself to be God in some way, and so people are worshiping her. Like, that's not okay. But beyond even that, these are rumors, and I don't know. But the problem I have with her is that I don't feel like, is she tethered to this timeline with us here? Is she in the same galaxy? I feel like she's not.
I honestly don't believe so. I don't think so. I think she is definitely in another one. Absolutely.
Like when they're in Vail and she's just going in on Jen Shah about all the things she thinks about Jen Shah. She calls her a Mexican thug and all the things, right? And then turns around and goes to the pho party with Jenny's pho party, and says, I never said anything about you. Like, in that moment, I felt like she believes that about herself. I think she believes that she hasn't said anything about Jen, and I don't understand her thought processes. So let me just say that. Beyond which, the things that come out of her mouth ball are totally inappropriate, problematic, and, well, racist. So that's what I think about Mary. I'm like, how can you be a pastor, lady? I don't understand.
I was devastated when she made the comment about Jenny and said that she had yellow undertones. When I tell you I cringed, and then said she had beautiful slanted eyes. I literally feel like my spirit got up and walked out of the room and said, oh, hell no. I don't know on what planet she thinks that saying things like that are okay. And when she was asked about it, she's like, but I do think your eyes are beautiful. Well, but that's all you had to say.
I do think your slanted eyes are beautiful. I think slanted eyes are beautiful. She doubled down. Yep.
She really doubled down on that. And I don't know. I mean, I feel uncomfortable with it. I don't know. It's cringy. And then she regifted shoes.
I mean, I would have
taken those shoes. And then they still ended up back to Jen. And Jen ended up with the shoes.
They were gorgeous. I would have taken those shoes. I don't care because they're beautiful. But what did you think about Meredith in the moment when Mary's doubling down and saying, well, I do love your beautiful eyes. And And Jenny saying, well, that's offensive, and everyone else kind of concurring that's offensive. But it was Meredith, who is the holdout, that basically said, I don't know. What did she say? She said, I don't know if it's offensive. I know I wouldn't say it, or something like that. But she was kind of covering for Mary.
She has been covering for Mary so much lately. And so are now we seeing who Meredith really is and how Meredith really thinks and feels? Because I feel like you can still have a friend who says something that is horrible, and you can call them out. You know, if the conversation itself at that time, first of all, I feel like all of these housewives have these inappropriate conversations, these conversation at inappropriate times and places. Why are we going to someone's event, pulling that person aside and everyone to... Now, I will say they didn't have a knockdown drag-out fight like some of the other housewives on other shows do at events. But I still feel like, no, what you could do is say, listen, this conversation is not time and place. Let's have it again. And certainly not at a pho party, but have it somewhere else. But I don't understand why Meredith can't hold Mary accountable for the horrible things that she says. You can do that as a friend. It's okay to call your friend out and educate them. And if you and your friend just don't agree on it, decide whether it's an atrocity that will allow you to be friends, continue being friends or not. But to just sit there and cover for someone when they're saying something that is blatantly racist, to me is offensive. And I just feel like then she's no friend of Jenny, for sure.
No, for sure. Well, Meredith is getting dragged on Twitter for this, and she's actually apologized and acknowledged that wasn't the right position to take at the time. But it doesn't really change that in the moment when she could have, I don't know that she would have to educate Mary. I don't know the dynamics of that, but she could most certainly stand on the right side of history in that moment, which she did not do. And I just find Meredith, honestly, I liked her. I think I liked her a bit in season 1. I was interested in her. I was interested in Marks. But in season 2, I'm just not feeling Meredith. I'm like, well, are you forgiving Jen Shah or not? Because you said you had that sit down with Marks and you were there and you guys all had a moment. You forgave each other. But did you? Because now it doesn't seem like you have. And the rumors are coming out, and I guess we'll be talking about it in some of the episodes to come, that maybe she and or Mary had something to do with Homeland Security showing up that day and taking Jen Shah into custody. I don't know about all of that. Yeah. But it's curious that neither of them were on the bus. It's curious that Meredith's in a bubble bath with her champs, just luxuriating. I mean, it kind of felt like she wasn't really shook when she heard the news. You'd think she'd be shook.
Not at all.
Not at all.
I don't think she was. I don't think Mary was. And I remember who was Lisa having the conversation with? I don't remember the other lady. The lady that has the new skincare.
Oh, Whitney.
Still catching up on their names.
Whitney.
When she and Whitney were doing the water bath thing in the previous episode.
Right.
And they were talking about how Mary said, if you come after my church or come after me, you'll go to jail. And, to me, that's, I wouldn't say it's a threat.
It's a threat.
It sort of feels like a threat. And to say something that bold. And then Meredith is your BFF and you're in cahoots on so many things. And neither one of you were surprised that this happened. And neither one of you were present. I'm going to call BS. I'm going to call shenanigans. And I'm going to say you knew something was going down. Whether you facilitated it, had a hand in it, I don't know. But or you, the two of you, were in cahoots about it, had someone else give the tip. So your hands could be clean of that. I don't know. But it feels very suspect to me.
It does feel very suspect. Now, I will pop up and go meta with it and say that if Jen Shah was doing the things, the allegations are saying she's, ripping off older people and scams and all that. If she's actually doing that, well, she absolutely should pay for that. She absolutely
100%
should get charged with that and potentially go to jail for that. So I'm not mad about that. It's just this the weird dynamic between Meredith and Mary. But let's talk a moment about Lisa Barlow, because I cannot with her. She represents an archetype to me or something where like these I want to say white women tears, but like these feminine tears, like every time she's confronted with actual evidence of her being duplicitous and trying to be a puppet master, she's terrible at it. Anytime she's confronted, she immediately starts yelling, she immediately starts filibustering, and she immediately starts crying.
Yes.
It is impossible to have an actual conversation where something can get resolved because she's just gaslighting the entire time. And
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
She's lowering
I'm
my
like
vibe.
gaslighting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Every time she gets in those states, those fits that she has, the first thing I think, wow, she's really trying to gaslight these women. And I like that these women call her out or try to call her out. And yet I kind of don't mind that Lisa's going after Meredith a little bit.
Me too.
And Meredith is just like, you're always yelling at me. You're always screaming at me. I can't have this conversation with you. I feel like Meredith needs to be called out as well, but I get such vibes from Lisa, from Meredith, from Mary, and Jen Shaw a little bit. You know, when they show her family life, you know, and she's at home with Coach, her husband, and I appreciate the fact that he's standing by her side, but the look on her face when he suggested that they may have to downsize to help pay this $2 million retainer. And that's just the retainer. And that her mother's cashing in her retirement to help pay for this retainer, which again is just a retainer, not what all the legal fees are going to be. And this isn't something that I think is going to be over very quickly. So it's going to be very costly. And she doesn't want to downsize really because, it's a place where the whole family comes and they depend on us. And, I'm calling shenanigans and BS on that because I feel like, no, it's a place that you want to live in.
Right.
And yes, maybe you want to welcome your family into your big, lavish luxury home so people can think that you're this baller. And that's fine if that's what you want to give. But I felt like, wow, you didn't even want to give up that when your freedom is on the line.
Right.
Just that to me was a little yucky.
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
There's a lot yucky going on in the Shamazing household. I will say though, like maybe unpopular hot take, I'm actually liking Jen Shaw more this season than I did last season. It's probably because she's had such a huge comeuppance and she's really having to deal with a lot, and she's been humbled in the media. She's been dragged on Twitter. And so she's coming back less bombastic than how she came in season 1. And I like her talking heads. I think she's kind of funny. If she wasn't just a deplorable person, I would really like Jen Shaw. But unfortunately, she's deplorable. So I cannot sign off on Miss
Horrible.
Shaw.
Deplorable.
Miss Shaw. Can I ask you about Meredith?
Yeah.
Just one question. Does she seem
Sure.
zanned out to you? Totally, right? Come on.
I'll say it. Yeah.
Yeah, very affected. Like
Absolutely.
the way
Yes.
she talks. I'm like, lady, sober up. I'm allegedly, like, I don't know, but I've been around people who have had that issue and problem, and the way they speak, the cadence of their voice, it's like very drugged out. And I just feel like, ooh,
Yeah.
is something going on with you, Meredith? I don't know.
Do you know who she reminds me of a little? I don't remember the character's name, but in the second Addams Family movie with Raul Julia and Angelica Houston, Joan Cusack played the nanny.
Okay, I didn't see it.
And she did this whole thing to get in and get Uncle Fester because she thought he was rich and all of that. She reminds me of that character. Meredith reminds me of that character.
Oh,
and it
interesting.
just seems so... But not as funny because that character was hilarious.
There's nothing funny about Meredith. She's a bore.
No.
And I
then
say
they
that
go to-
with the love of Jesus Christ in my heart. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm
course,
just like,
of course.
bring a little more, get some energy, like clear up whatever's happening in
Yeah.
your thought processes and bring some energy.
Yeah. And then they go to Whitney's launch of her skincare,
Yeah.
Wild Rose.
I don't know.
And then they talk about how she has spent all of their life savings.
Like 300,000.
Which I think at that point they said was, 300,000. And on something that evidently is not selling, never has sold, is... When do you give up the dream? Because I feel like, one... I don't know how comfortable I would be giving every last penny into a skincare company. And I'll tell you why. Because you can Google skincare and get a bazillion links of every different type of skincare that you could possibly want. Everybody has a skincare. And it's like these housewives have fashion lines and skincare lines and wine, and they're a dime a dozen. I mean, if I want wine, I'm just going to go over to the Total Wine and call it a day,
Right.
where I can get all of my wine and spirits. I'm not particularly infatuated with any celebrity brand. And I feel like because they all do perfumes as well, fragrance. So, and it hasn't been doing well. And now you're going to rebrand in hopes to get it off the ground. But are you really that passionate about it? I don't know. It doesn't seem like it, doesn't feel like it, doesn't feel very authentic. And I feel like it's a brand for TV. Yes,
Right.
you are getting exposure on the show. Maybe people will buy. But I just don't know if she has that many fans following her. J-Lo, putting out her J-Lo skincare.
Right.
Again, skincare brand that everybody puts out. However, she has a very loyal and dedicated fan base. They will buy it, and mostly they will love it. But is it, I looked at the ingredients when she launched. It's nothing stellar. It's nothing groundbreaking that anyone else doesn't have. So I just feel like that's the same thing for Wild Rose. I did a little look on it. It's not premium skincare. It's expensive, but why?
Right.
And I don't know, spending that kind of money and then thinking, well, if it immediately fails, you have no savings.
Right.
What if your husband lost his job today? What do you do for income? Yeah, you get income from the show, but is that going to sustain your entire life? I don't know.
Right. I think she's banking on being on the show. This is her second season, so she's probably timing it with her exposure and hoping that that will bring in the customers. I don't know. I did hear some rumors, some rumblings, some echoes of problems for her husband. I'm forgetting his name right now. Generic tall white guy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That guy.
Well, I didn't even remember her name.
Yeah, I know.
I don't remember her name, and I watched the show.
I know. But I think he's involved. His business is MLM. It's some kind of an MLM. And I don't know what it is with Mormonism and Mormon people and MLMs, but there are but no, whatever. I don't believe in MLMs. I think they're terrible. They hurt people, but this is not what we're here to talk about today. But I think his company, I want to say it's something like New Skin. I don't know. I'm just talking out of my
like that,
ass. Yeah. But I think he's involved in an MLM and something's happening. I don't know if it's lawsuits or people are coming out talking about it, but a little bit shady over there in that household. I will say I loved the dress that she wore to her rebrand party thing.
Yes,
I thought
she
it was
did look
gorgeous.
She looked amazing.
She's pretty.
Worth being late to your own party for.
She's pretty.
It was a pretty dress, but you shouldn't have been late.
But you know what I clocked?
She's a very pretty girl. Wow.
I clocked that it's the same dress that Larsa is wearing in the opening shot credits of Real Housewives of Miami. She's in a blue one, and she's got some sort of a belt. And that's the same dress that Adriana also wore on some Instagram shoots. So they're passing this dress style around. But nonetheless, it looked beautiful on her. God bless Whitney Rose.
Yes, God bless Whitney.
Are we done with these ladies? Do we want to move on to the OC?
I'm done.
Okay.
I am so done with Salt Lake. Yeah, I'm over it. So let's go to Orange County, which I feel like was a little bit more productive. I mean, the episode before ended with Heather issuing this threat. It wasn't even veiled. It was a very rehearsed and scripted threat. If you ever come after me or my family, you will lose more than this friendship. I'm paraphrasing.
Have a visceral reaction to Heather Dubrow. And I told you, it's tethered to my grandma. I've got work timeline healing to do, ancestral healing to do around that. But I'm just telling you that I cannot stand her at all. Everything is so performative. And we start this episode of The Housewives with the conversation continuing with Heather, and Heather is not gracious. And I'm please enlighten me and illuminate me what the hell Shannon did that was so bad. All she said was, hey, I think I remember a woman by that name, but that can't be the same person because she sued Terry Dubrow. That's all she said. And then she said, please don't say anything because I don't know. How many, that's a conversation we would easily have as friends. Easily we would have that conversation as friends. There's nothing wrong with saying something like that. And so the fact that Heather and Terry are demonizing Shannon for doing something completely human, and normal is ridiculous, and I can't stand Heather. But then after that conversation, which ends, I'm sorry, I can't, which ends
Well,
with,
I have thoughts.
okay, well, let me just say this, and then we're going to get to your thoughts. After that conversation between Shannon and Heather ends with Heather conceding or acquiescing or deigning to show some forgiveness. I'm sorry. Two middle fingers up. I can't stand her. Terry Dubrow is called into the scene. Okay.
Yes.
And
Because she has Heather feels Shannon has wronged Terry and maligned his good name.
right. Well, what about the lady who sued him, though, that you're still really good friends with, allegedly? I don't think she's really good friends with that person at all, Nicole. But Terry Dubrow comes and takes Shannon to task, and afterwards Shannon goes to her boyfriend and cries because it was a lot. You're just putting her through the ringer. And I didn't like it. I don't like them. I don't. And I'll leave it at that. What are your thoughts, Bryan? You disagree.
Well,
I want to hear why.
No, I don't really disagree. I mean, I like Heather in the sense that I like what she's bringing to the show this season, because she's just so, in her mind, she's just so above it all and everything is so beneath her. But what I like is that it's shifting relationships within the group. And I like it because I want to see, I've never really liked her, but I enjoyed what she does to other people's relationships and how people will band together and they're dislike of her or whatever the case may be. And I feel like why does Shannon want to be Heather's friend so bad that she will put up with this egregious behavior? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she literally just, was willing. Yes. Do I feel like she should have apologized to Heather? Maybe. And this is what I'll tell you why. It wasn't that she said what she said. It was the fact that she didn't go to Heather first and talk about it. She went to Gina and she went to Emily and told it, and then told them not to say anything. To me, right there's a red flag, because this easily could have been fixed, done, and put away. Well, maybe not with Heather, but if you would have just went to Heather and said XYZ, when you found, maybe not initially, well, yeah, I think initially, because you're bringing something in that it feels icky. And so why wouldn't you just go to Heather and say, oh my God, I know this woman, I think she might be this woman who may have sued your husband. If she would have told Heather up front, I think the reaction would have been different.
Sure. And I concede that she didn't do it correctly. Like, she did make a mistake, but was it so big of a mistake that she's getting her life and livelihood allegedly threatened by Heather Dubrow and National? Come on. That was like a small...
No.
That's a thing when you're kikiing with your friends. That's a thing that is probably very easily said. You're a little bit gossipy with your friends. It's normal. Is it right? No. She should have been 100% in integrity. I agree with you, but I just feel like it's overkill. And I don't know who Heather thinks she is.
She's Shamps. She's above it all. She's
Don't care.
The richest out of all of them, and so they all
So
must sit in
what?
her court. And yeah, I know. And then bringing Terry in, if you really want her to apologize to Terry, do it off camera like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he was an atrocity to her. He said it didn't make sense to him. He didn't wonder why. And it was easy to let it go. And then, Shannon deflecting, what was she pulling something off of him?
Yeah.
I think she was just like, I got to do something because I can't take this. And then when she went to her boyfriend and told him about it, he was upset. Mm-hmm. She was upset. She was outright 100% threatened by Heather. Mm-hmm. And yet, she is so desperate to be her friend that even though she's not okay with it, she allowed it to happen.
You're right. You're right about that.
I would have just said, F you, lady, and got up and walked out. I don't need to be anybody's friend if you're going to threaten me like that. It's one thing to say, I didn't appreciate it. I guess Heather's entitled to feel how she feels. If you really feel she was threatening your family, you have a right to say, hey, I feel threatened. But if your friend says, I really didn't mean it that way, I'm so sorry you feel that way, I will never do that again, that would be the end of it. Okay, fine, you want to throw in I don't trust you, but I'll try, fine. But that was just overkill. It was mean, girls.
It was mean.
It was nasty.
It was
very mean. It was very mean. And the thing is, Shannon's going to continue kissing her butt because she wants to be her friend. Now, tell me in your intuitive sense, why does Shannon want to be Heather's friend that bad?
I think she wants to stay on the OC because, as she has signaled, she is worried about how she's going to pay for all of the things. She got a settlement for her ex-husband. I think it was like $2 million, $3 million. I don't really know why I'm saying that
Wasn't
number.
a whole lot.
I don't think it was a whole
lot.
Right. And she's mentioned that she's the one who's putting her daughters through college, which is very weird to me because that kind of thing is routinely built into divorce settlements. Like
Absolutely.
And in some states, it's mandatory that you build that language in. How are
Absolutely.
who's paying what for college? Not every state. So, but it's very typical that the parents would figure out who's going to pay for what. And so I'm shocked that David, her ex-husband, would not be paying for anything. But I mean, what do I know? So I think that's why she's obviously working on her business, her lemonade business thing. I don't know what that's about. And I think that's why she wants to stay on OC. And I think with Heather coming back, there was just a lot of energy around that. And people were like, oh, here comes Fancy Pants. And everything's getting shaken up and people are being let go. And so I think all of them are trying to align themselves and ally with Heather. And it's gross. And we're going to talk about somebody who calls this out in another segment. But I think that's why Shannon is doing it. And maybe there's a part of Shannon, there's a very insecure part of her that I think wants to be friends with people and wants to connect with people. She seems like the most down to earth, maybe Gina too, maybe Emily, but she seems pretty down to earth. So maybe there's an actual authentic desire to reconnect with Heather, but is it worth it? I don't think so. I think she's being set up to be the punching bag, although I think in the future the winds will shift and Fancy Pants is going to take her haughtiness out on Noella. Because Noella is talking mad shit about Heather Dubrow. Rightly so. Go, Noella. Sorry. No, it's not rightly so.
And she's also talking about Jen Armstrong.
Yeah, Dr. Jen.
I mean, and that
was weird.
That's weird. That was so weird. So next we see Emily come over and visit Noella. And Noella then says, oh, I'm upset, I'm stressed, so I'm losing my voice. So do you mind if I whisper? Which that was just so weird for me. but okay. But so she then tells Emily that she's upset with Jen Armstrong. And apparently Jen posted some picture and tagged Noella in it. Mm-hmm. And it was what she called, I think, a poorly lit selfie or something like that.
Right.
And thanking all of her plastic surgery clients. And I just feel like for some reason, Noella had hostility with Jen before that picture. And I know they were both friends with Bronwyn, Wyndham Burke, who was on the previous season. So, yeah. And, I wonder, do you think, because both of them, I think, based on some text message that was going around, that those two, Noella and Dr. Jen, wanted to be on the Housewives.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think there was some competition there?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're the two.
And maybe that's where that began.
Yeah, I think they're the two new girls. And so Noella is trying to position herself as the one to beat, the primary, the premier, the princess. I think she's doing it too with all of her drama that she's got with her divorce and what's happening with all of that. And I think that but I thought the interaction she had with Dr. Jen at that party was weird. It was petty. Yeah. It was not a big deal what Jen did. I mean, I don't know why Dr. Jen did that. Why would you tag Noella if she's not one of your patients? I don't know. And you don't even really know her. Weird. Why would you do that? But it didn't need to be about all of that with the things Noella was saying to her. I think Noella was just mean and condescending and rude. I did not like it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so weird. And Noella thinks that Heather is manipulative and controlling. I agree with that. I don't disagree with some of the things that Noella says, but it's just so she's a mean girl too, I think.
Oh, for sure. That's why I've been saying for these previous episodes when we've discussed her, I'm like, I got my spidey senses tingling around her because I think a lot of it is orchestrated. I think a lot of it is performative. I watched her on Watch What Happens Live after OC. I don't know if you saw that. And she was, she was so polished and scripted. And I don't know. Something about her I just don't like. And I can't put my finger on it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think as much as it was a part of the show, do we really, really, really want to talk about Heather and Terry taking Gina and her boyfriend
Moving on
to the races?
No.
Because that whole segment, I just wanted to vomit.
I don't understand.
So-
And I think Gina's doing exactly what you're saying Shannon is doing. She's trying to sidle up to Heather Dubrow, who's in the power position this season. And I just thought it was really gross. So, no, let's go on to the next scene.
So, Gina apparently was passing on some information that Noella has been talking, more about Heather behind her back. Mm-hmm. And so I know she had told Gina that Heather can't be trusted. But Gina seems to just blindly follow and trust Heather. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. I wanted to like Noella when she came on, but as more information comes out about her divorce from Sweet James, I feel like it's just everything's so cringy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel very, very weird about.
I was watching her on Watch What Happens Live, and she was actually saying that something happened with Heather that made her form the opinion that she was duplicitous, two-faced, and not to be trusted. So there's something that happened. And Andy asked her, well, is that going to come out later in the season? And she said, yes, I'm going to have my confrontation with Heather, and I'm going to bring it up. So watch. So apparently, as per Noella, she's privy to some information that kind of icks her out about Heather, and so she's going to call her on it. And for that, I am waiting with bated breath, my friend.
Yeah, so it looks like we'll have to wait for the next episodes to see what's going on.
Yeah.
I do want to add one other tidbit about Salt Lake.
Yeah.
I heard recently that Mary skipped the reunion taping and most likely won't be returning for season 3.
And amen. Amen. Thank you, Jesus.
Hallelujah. Yeah.
I mean, I think
craziness.
She's clearly running from accountability and having to talk about her church, talk about the allegations with regard to how she treats her congregation. I think she clearly does not want to talk about the racist comments that she made and how she's treated people. And this is just a cherry on top of a shit sundae. Like, what kind of, what kind of person are you, and why are you pastoring a church? Like, you probably should be in therapy and getting to know your shadow. And because I mean, come on. I think she's got trauma. I think so she
too.
Married her step-grandfather. She bypassed her mother, who was in line for the throne to become pastor of that church and become wealthy beyond imagination. She bypasses her mother, takes that role that the grandmother gives to her, causes huge conflict in the family. Many of them don't like her, hate her. And she's sleeping with her step-grandfather. So that's
cringy.
a lot. It's a lot and she was young. So I don't know. And it's all very, very weird, but I'm glad she's no longer going to be on my television. My lips to God's ears.
She might come back.
No.
You never know, but
no.
Usually when you skip a reunion, you're not on the next season.
They do not like that. Don't do that. LVP did that. She never came back. Well, she didn't want to, but correct.
Yeah, allegedly. Mm-hmm.